Well, happy Thursday, everybody, and welcome to our continued coverage in the Riley Strain case. I'm coming to you live right from the heart of Nashville, where I live, and have a lot of insight on this case today. Brand new information coming from the family. New surveillance footage contains images of the missing University of Missouri student Riley Strain on the night that he disappeared in Nashville. And this is according to their family friend, Chris Dingman, who, by the way, seems to be, in my opinion, a saint to this family. He's handling a lot of the media appearances. He's working closely with them and making sure that this is one of those stories that stays on the frontal lobe of people's minds. And certainly in any case like this, and we cover all kinds of cases on this YouTube channel, you got to have somebody that's pushing, or else cases get sort of washed by the wayside. And this is a very unusual case. There certainly is a poll that I have going on in the chat just saying, hey, do you think that there's potentially foul play that happened? And about 70% of you think that there's the potential for foul play in this case. And so on the surface, to me, it kind of looks like there's just an accident. He was supposed to make a left to go to his hotel and he made a right and ended up in the river. At least that's my initial perception, but my eyes and ears are open. And one thing, if you're brand new to this channel, that you'll learn is that we sort of have a spiritual lens that we look at, and we ask God and pray for the families. And one of the things that I've seen so many times is that God highlights cases for reasons and brings them to the front of sort of the public sphere. And I think that's happening in this case. It's a sort of makes me question some things a little bit, like maybe there was foul play. Maybe there is more going on than meets the eye. And if it was just the fact that he fell in the river, how come they haven't found his body now that they've searched more than 40 miles of it? So again, my eyes and ears are open to hear what you guys may have to say to point me in the other direction. We're going to continue covering the facts of the case. But Riley Strain's stepfather said that the new footage that we're talking about today shows him walking towards the James Robertson Parkway Bridge, which spans the Cumberland River. The bridge is in the opposite direction of the hotel, and it's unclear why he was walking in that direction. Chris Salisbury, who offers assistance to homeless individuals in Nashville, told Ashley Banfield on News Nation that he spoke with someone who saw a homeless man, you guys probably heard this, named Ross. So I don't know if I should go downtown and try to talk to every homeless person and figure out if Ross is around, wearing Riley's distinctive black and white shirt. So then that would be just another question that sort of would emerge. Why is there somebody wearing a black and white shirt? Riley's, I mean, it's such a distinct shirt. Why is somebody wearing his shirt? If he would have fallen in the river, he wouldn't have he would still have his shirt on. A homeless guy wouldn't have his shirt. So that doesn't make sense. How come his debit card was on the bank and it's completely clean with no dirt? That's a little confusing to me, especially since it certainly had rained in the course of the 8 or 9 days, 10 days from the time that he disappeared to the time that they found that debit card. Now, several other people that Ross spoke with and that Chris Salisbury spoke with seen the homeless man wearing that shirt. So it's not just one account, multiple eyewitnesses. One of the women he was speaking with reportedly told Ross that he found the shirt hung over a railing and covered in vomit. And so when I started to hear this story, then I started thinking maybe he didn't fall in the river. Maybe instead the thing that happened was he just kept walking and walking and walking, and maybe he's still walking and lost and kind of out of his mind. I don't know. That is very possible, something that happened. Maybe he got abducted. He said that he shared the information with police, who were able to identify the individual who allegedly had Mr. Strange's shirt in a police database. It is currently unclear if the man has or will be taken in for questioning by police. It seems like a no-brainer when you have a missing persons and then you have somebody that was wearing a shirt. You got to find the dude and make that happen. Now, Mr. Salisbury said that he told both the police and Riley's family about his discovery. Riley's family said that they had heard similar rumors during their own discussions with area homeless individuals. They also confirmed that they had seen the footage of Mr. Strain approaching the bridge, but it was unclear to them if there was vomit on the shirt in that footage. So they're trying to say, hey, did he actually throw up on himself? Was he actually overly intoxicated? And that's what happened. Now, there is some question over where the shirt was found. The area where the homeless man said he found the shirt was too far away from Riley's path on the night that he disappeared. So that would be an exchange of hands with the shirt. All known surveillance video of Riley shows him wearing the shirt, and none of the footage that we have a good angle on sees him with a shirt with vomit stain on it. Now, police have maintained that the evidence that they've collected does not suggest foul play was involved at all in Riley's disappearance. He disappeared on Friday, March 8th, after he was removed from Luke Bryan's Bridge bar downtown. He was visiting the city with his fraternity brothers in their spring formal trip. I still don't understand how come it's called a formal trip when you're going downtown to the bars. That just makes no sense to me. I think a formal trip, you're like renting out a ballroom and everybody's dressing up in tuxedos and night in like gowns. After he was removed, he told his friend he was going to return to their hotel, but began walking in the opposite direction, which obviously took him to the banks of the Cumberland River. It's not clear why Riley walked so far from his hotel. He was captured in several surveillance cameras, and I'm going to show those on a map, those different areas where he was spotted, including body cam footage of a police officer. Now, Riley does not appear in distress in the body cam footage, which is perplexing because just minutes before that, he certainly looked in distress. Images show him, like I said, just running into a pole right before that. So Riley was only served one alcohol drink at Luke Bryan's bar, but we know that he'd visited other bars before he went there and maybe even drank before the whole thing started. So the whole thing, my friends, is totally chaotic. We're going to do our best to try to cover it. If you have a theory about what took place, if you have inside information about what took place, please email me, press@tylerfeller.com, because I'm like you. I want to get down to the bottom of this case as quick as possible. It's in my home city. And not only that, I went to college in Springfield, Missouri, which is where he's from. And so I'm feel doubly connected to this case. And so I'd love for you, if you have any information at all, send it along, press@tylerfeller.com. And I also want to if you don't mind, let me know, where is it that you're tuning in from? Like I said, obviously I'm coming to you live from the heart of Nashville, Tennessee. I think it's amazing the power of YouTube to get cases like this out when we all gather together, people from all over the place band together and are able to share. So if you don't mind just putting in the chat, where is it that you are tuning in from? I'm coming to you live from Nashville, Tennessee. Now, I saw this on the Riley Strain Missing Nashville, Tennessee page. She has some pretty good interactive images I want to show you because it does a good job of kind of having that overhead view of what's going on. And by the way, guys, as you're letting me know where you're tuning in from, I want to let you know that we're totally crowdfunded on this channel, which means we depend on people like you to support us financially. I want to extend that invitation. You can support through PayPal, Cash App, or Venmo. That information's down there on the bottom of the screen. You can also support through Super Sticker or Super Chat. Thank you, Amy Heights, Jennifer Swain, Catherine Joy, Cat Joy, and Patty Davila. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And congratulations to individuals that got a free membership to our YouTube channel from Cat Joy. Thank you, Cat Joy, for doing that. So you guys can see on this picture with these timestamps, and again, I know a lot of you are familiar with this, but sometimes we can hear the same thing 3, 4, 5, 6 times, and the 6th or 7th time that we hear it, there's an epiphany, there's an insight that we gain. And so I'm going to read these and show these with these timestamps on there. And there might be, come on, we're collectively a think tank. There might be some new information that sticks out to you. And I know this area very well. I lived downtown for a long time, and I don't live downtown anymore, but I used to live downtown. I know these streets like the back of my hand. I know when it's safe, when it's no longer safe. I don't know why he was on the street that he should have been on. That is typically not a street that I recommend for people to be walking down at 10 p.m. at night, especially on the weekend, but that's what happened. Okay, so his hotel is 3 blocks to the left. He leaves Luke Bryan's bar. I understand why he went straight, because right there, that street is Broadway. This street is so crazy on Friday nights at 9:30 to 9:40. I mean, in fact, we have footage from a different YouTube channel. I can show you exactly what it looked like around this time on Friday night, because there's a YouTuber who goes down there and films and live streams what happens. So 9:30 to 9:40, he walks about 2 blocks up past the Batman building, which is the AT&T building, um, past, different businesses, escape room, game, and all that. And then he kind of gets to the corner of this parking lot around 9:44. So it takes him, 8 or 9 minutes to get 2 blocks up, and then there's video footage of him at 9:45 stumbling along that wall. There was some information that he tried to stop at the smoke shop right here. Maybe he had his debit card out. People say he always kept it in his wallet. Well, he's usually not intoxicated, inebriated, possibly drugged. And so we can't say in that state of mind he's going to put his debit card in his wallet. That's an unfair statement or assumption to make that I've seen a lot of people make. We can't say he always does this because you could have said before this day, he always makes it home safe. And so there's exclusions to every rule. We don't know for sure that his debit card was in his wallet, as a lot of people have came out and been adamant about. It could have just been in his pocket. It could have been in his hand. We do know that somewhere along him crossing this intersection and him stumbling along this wall, he stopped at what was a smoke shop and tried to get a drink or something, and I think was refused service. And that's part of the thing I was thinking, like, well, maybe he did have his debit card out. Maybe they refused to put it. He went ahead and just put it back in his wallet. Then he gets here. We've seen that footage. When I see him cross that intersection on that footage, and I'm sure many of you have seen it 100 times, it almost looks like he stops and wants to walk back across the road and then doesn't. Instead, he crosses that intersection. When you cross that intersection right there, that's the end of Church Street, and that's the beginning of Gay Street. And now he's on Gay Street, and he's walking at 9:50, 9:52 time. He has a brief interaction with a police officer who was there. And I've looked at crimemapping.com, and I can put it on the screen maybe a little later in the show. But I was looking at crimemapping.com. You can look at every single crime that took place on March 8th in Nashville, Tennessee. In fact, I looked at March 8th and March 9th because at some point midnight becomes March 9th. So we kind of have to look in that time window, like a 12-hour time window of any crime that took place. So, by the way, one of the things, guys, we do on this channel just for fun as a way to continue to garner support in a way that we need to keep doing the content. We do something called a super sticker train or super chat train. We set a goal. It's just a fun way to invite people to support. Don't feel like you have to support financially to be a part. But it is something that especially our members enjoy doing. They appreciate the content and what we stand for. And so we set a goal. I'm going to set a goal of going after 20 super stickers or super chats on today's stream. And again, if you're new here or you don't like that, don't feel like you have to support. But that is how we're able to keep producing this great content. So he walks across the street onto Gay Street, crosses that intersection, has that interaction with the police officer. He has no reason to be walking down the street. To me, he's clearly lost. He sends a text message around this time to his girlfriend or ex-girlfriend or whatever dating situation that he has at the moment, and sends a text that doesn't make sense, which is really unfortunate. And then 3 minutes later, 9:53, he gets his last ping from Life 360. I'd like to know the percentage of his battery, by the way. That's one thing about Life 360. It tells me from members of my family, I'll get notifications like, you need to tell such and such they need to charge their phone because their phone's at such and such battery percentage. Like, here's one right here. My cousin Rachel, battery is at 10%. So I was like, I need to tell her, hey, your battery is at 10%. And so I'd like to know what his percentage is on that. And then last phone ping was around 9:55, 9:58. And so you guys can see that information right there. Mm-hmm. Great information there. And then I do want to just play from the local news. I feel like is doing the best job of covering this, even though they don't do longer segments, because they know things and they're able to be boots on the ground and they have connections that the national news.
The search for.
And so I want to just play this quick segment that was on the local news today.
22-year-old Riley Strain has taken on a life of its own as volunteers from near and far flock to Music City to lend a hand. Good evening and welcome to News 2 at 5. I'm Bob Mueller.
And I'm Haley Wilkes. Today, the family's close friend made the trip from Missouri, hoping to uncover any new clues about this case. From boats to drones and helicopters, officials are making sure no stone is left unturned. And Riley's family has not given up hope as the search stretches into its 13th day. News 2's Kendall Ashman is joining us live in the area where Riley was last seen right before he disappeared. Kendall.
Yeah, Bob, Haley, volunteers also set up a tent right here along Gay Street. They tell me they handed out over 1,400 flyers all across Nashville. Of course, as we know, this is the last known area where Riley was seen before he disappeared. Now, I did speak with Riley's stepfather, Chris. He tells me the family has seen unreleased surveillance video along this stretch in between the Woodland Street and Main Street Bridge. He tells me,
I don't know why they haven't released it. So that's sort of like one of the things that I'm curious about. Like, how come there's unreleased footage and they they say, "Hey, we have this footage," and he's walking? Is it just because there's nothing to it, or is it because there's something to it? That's I'm just a little curious. Like, I personally would like to see. I personally would like to see the footage. Okay, I'm just saying that. There could be some clue pieces there. It's like, what? I want to see it. Don't you guys want to see it?
with Riley's stepfather, Chris. He tells me the family has seen unreleased surveillance video along this stretch in between the Woodland Street and Main Street Bridge. He tells me it appears Riley may have been briskly walking or jogging. So today, volunteers continue their search efforts here, handing out flyers and signing up anyone that would like to be a part of the search team. Riley's stepfather says they aren't giving up until they find Riley.
We're still hopeful we're bringing him home. Time's ticking, we know that, but we're doing everything we can to find him. It's the people, the volunteers that are keeping us going, the moms that are coming up and hugging my wife. I can't say enough how much it means to us, how much it helps us, especially in a town where we don't know a lot of people.
And Chris tells me the family did speak with a couple last night who identified themselves in one of those surveillance video clips. They say they did interact with Riley that night. And while it wasn't a breakthrough, Chris says any information goes a long way. Bob, Haley, back to you guys.
Thank you, Kendall. We will have continuing coverage in the search for Riley Strain all throughout the afternoon. You can also visit our website at WKR.
And like I said, that local news media has done an amazing job keeping track of everything. And I did hear about this TikTok a friend just sent me, and who knows if it's accurate or not, but it's like, is this Riley Strain? And this was posted a little bit earlier today. So let's just watch. Again, I haven't seen this footage. At one point towards the end of it, I could fast forward to that part, but I kind of want to watch the whole video because I want to know what this person's saying. They said, is this Riley Strain like on a scooter?
At least 3 people here. Only at least 3 people I have seen before. This is the Birchview building footage, and up in the right here you can see somebody running, which I just think is interesting because there's been 2 other videos of Riley running. Now this next video, same building footage. At 9:59, there's 2 people here now. You can see them. One is either wearing a white shirt or no shirt, and the other is kind of more by the bushes, but you can see his phone. I think that could be when Riley and the homeless man are together and Riley's throwing up, and the couple asks if you're okay, and somebody says he's fine, he's just drunk. This could be Riley right here. And then they keep walking. Now these people come in scooters, and at first I thought, okay, we need to find these scooter people because they could potentially be witnesses, which of course they still could be, and I think somebody does need to find them and talk to them and figure out what they know. But what I think is really interesting that I haven't seen before tonight,
So I'm looking at her timestamp. It says 9:59 p.m. Keep in mind, folks, we were just looking at that complete timeline, the play-by-play of everything that took place, and so it's around this time when he would have been there. And I have the video also, by the way, of Broadway that night that I'll put on in just a second to show you how crowded it is. But I was on somebody else's YouTube panel the other night, different YouTube channel, And I had them go through this video, and they were going through parts of it towards the end that I haven't seen yet. And it was like there were parts of it that were totally shocking to me. I mean, there were parts of it that I was like flabbergasted about, like, that there's like, for example, it's raining and there's like 8 homeless people under the bridge in that one spot near where Riley was last found. And I'm not trying to say that um, we need to go out pointing fingers at all kinds of homeless people. In fact, I think the opposite. If you read the Bible, it talks about clothing people who are unclothed and feeding people who don't feed food. And Jesus says, if you do it to those people, it's like you do it to me. I'm not denigrating or talking negative about that demographic at all. But the reason that I bring it up is because there's a conglomerate of people here that are right next to the last known spotting of someone who's now been gone for 2 weeks. And that's the reason why I'm not trying to talk bad about a demographic or anything like that. If anything, I would encourage you to get involved in your local community and serving and helping take care of those people and walking through. Some of them have trauma, walking through their trauma and things like that. That's what I'm advocating for. But I am going to be mentioning that population at points throughout the night because there are some similarities from what we're seeing in the footage and potential possibilities of what's happened. And that's all. So anyways, back to this footage. It's 9:59 p.m. This is like right in that zone of time frame that we were able to pin down on the timeline for Riley.
I just saw this tonight is this next video. We'll have to wait a second here. Again, this is from the Birch View building, I think is what it is called, after the second bridge. I think it's at like 11:03. You can find this video on YouTube. Okay, right here. I think this is, I don't know, I don't want to say it's the people from the scooters, but it very well could be because it's a group of people again. But to me, it looks like they are carrying something heavy. And I can't tell how many of them there are, but there's definitely at least 3 people here carrying something. What do you guys think about this? It could be something, it could be nothing, I don't know. But I'm so invested in this, like we need to figure it out.
What do you guys think? Let's just rewind a little bit.
Video on YouTube. Okay, right here. I think this is, I don't know, I don't want to say it's the
I'm just going to do a quick poll in the chat. Is this 3 people just walking down the road, or is this 2 people carrying one person
people from the scooters.
without a shirt on even?
Very well could be because it's a group.
It's really hard to tell. I think it could go either way. If you think it's just 3 people walking, put a 1 in the chat, or 3 or 4 people walking, put a 1 in the chat. If you think it's a group of people possibly carrying somebody else, put a 2 in the chat. So 1 for just walking, 2 for carrying. And again, I'm going to slow down the video to 0.75.
Group of people again. But to me, it looks like
I'm going to stop the audio because we don't need to listen to her talk real slow. There's one person out front. The way that person's arms are, I can see why you would like, okay. It's just so blurry. It's hard to tell anything. Ooh, why would you zoom out? We need to keep looking. Regardless of what it is or who it might be, it's a very interesting piece of information. I'll just say that. Keep looking, let me know. And I want to go through some of these super stickers. Patty, thank you. Linda, thank you. Michelle, you're amazing. Cat Joy, really appreciate your double whammy, your support. You said, Tyler, everyone gabbing in the house, and I missed how many train tickets tonight. What did I say? We're going after 20. and that's actually 7. So we're rocking and rolling so far tonight. Thank you, Cat Joy. You are amazing. Naomi, thank you, thank you, thank you. And Karen K, thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, look at, I mean, a lot of you guys are saying could be one way or the other. Now, let me show you some footage from 2 things I want to show you. Some of you guys may have already seen this footage, but 2 things I want to show you. This is Luke Bryan's bar. About probably 8:30 on the night that Riley disappeared. So, I mean, he's either potentially standing in line to get inside that bar right now, or maybe he's already even in there. I was trying to look and see, some of these people are actually waiting in line to get inside, and then you guys can actually see how there's Luke Bryan's bar right there. You guys can see actually how crowded um, these streets are. And so what I was saying, and this is the night that he disappeared. This is the actual night that he disappeared. And so um, the thing that I can totally understand is why he didn't make a left at this spot. Well, right here, he'd have to make a right. But when he came out of Luke Bryan's bar, why he didn't make a left? Because there's so many people. I think he was just going away from the crowd, or maybe he got pushed in with the crowd. Okay. So then, and then I'll show you guys just how busy these bars are. I mean, like that's one bar. This guy live streams and goes from bar to bar to bar. Here's another one. I mean, every single square inch of the whole facilities are taken up. I mean, it's like it's standing room only, and they're at total capacity. Okay, I just wanted you guys to see that. But another thing happens towards the end of this video. You guys can tell it's raining outside, but this guy who's filming these footages, he actually walks the path that Riley walks. Okay, so right here is like the escape game. He's about to get to that parking lot where Riley was on the footage actually falling over. And so I'll just kind of show you guys, because then he actually walks to Gay Street. So he kind of walks the path. What are the chances that somebody would be live streaming on YouTube the night that Riley went missing and walk home the path that Riley walked? And you guys can tell that it's raining here. It's probably 1 a.m. at this point, is my kind of estimation. So this is a couple of hours after Riley would have walked this way. But yeah, you can actually see this is the path that Riley would have walked on the night that he would have walked it. And so I'm looking for clues. I'm looking for pieces. I'm looking to see if there's anything that's sticking out to me. And he actually comes to the spot where like Riley would have dropped his debit card. So let me just go right there. You can see, I think that's a homeless guy in front of him. Again, this is on March 8th, the Friday night that Riley went missing. And this is the exact sidewalk on that same night that Riley walked down. And you guys can tell, if you're familiar with the security footage that we've seen, you guys can tell this is the street. I mean, there's going to be some familiarities with it. I know that it's not too late in the night because these food trucks are still open. And so those food trucks shut down. They're not there till 5 a.m. One thing that, again, with that debit card, like if the debit card was clean, so did somebody try to find it? Jennifer Coffindaffer made a good point saying nobody used the debit card. Like nobody used that debit card. But that's the parking lot where Riley fell down in. And so I was thinking, like, maybe it fell out of his pocket. Somebody picked it up. Maybe it fell out of his pocket and the rain washed it, to that um, riverside. I don't know. I don't know the answers, but I'm just kind of spitballing ideas here. And um, I see somebody saying you need a PIN for a debit card. You do need a PIN for a debit card, but you can also run a debit card as a credit card without the PIN, especially if you have or you can just tap it sometimes and it does it anyways. Like right about here is where Riley fell. So I'm like looking on the ground. Do you happen to see a debit card? But this man keeps walking. I'm going to keep showing you guys because he actually walks all the way to Gay Street, which is where obviously we know um, Riley was last seen at. I'll fast forward a little bit. Okay. When he walks down this bridge right there, he's about to walk down the bridge. That's Gay Street, and that's actually the exact about within 100 yards, the exact spot that he had that interaction with the law enforcement officer. And you guys can see under that bridge, there's going to be a ton of just there's somebody walking right there, which is interesting. There's one homeless person there on that side, but there's several more sleeping bags laid out on this other side. So, yep, did you see it? Let me rewind it. See, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like 7 or 8, like actual sleeping bags laid out on this spot. And if you guys are familiar with a lot of the footage taking place, you know that you guys see these guardrails there. That's what you keep seeing on the news. That's the spot where they're standing there doing a lot of this footage from. So again, not to denigrate that population, but just bringing it up to say that there was a conglomerate of this group of people that happened to be in basically the very spot that Riley went missing the night that he went missing. And I don't know the timing or specifics of it, but to me, it's a very peculiar situation. Cat Joy sends a super chat and says, "Did they say the bar did not let a friend go with Riley as messed up as he was?" Somebody said that, but the family spokesperson actually reiterated that that wasn't the case. A friend actually walked with him to the front of the store, and then the friend went back into the bar, and then Riley told the friend that he was going to walk back to the hotel, obviously took the wrong path. And so that is what somebody said, but it's not what the family came out and said was true. Great question, because that's sort of a misnomer, frequently asked questions that needed to be cleared up. And thank you so much for your super chat. Rebecca says concussions can cause nausea, fatigue, blackouts. Great point, right? Because he fell, was kind of a hard fall, and he could have got a concussion. You're exactly right. He could have been tossed into a dumpster. He was drinking water too at the bar. That's a great point. We know that he was drinking water at the bar too. So it's a great point. Plus, he walked nearly a mile. Maybe he would have sobered up by then, in my opinion. At least a little bit of sobered up. So it's excellent points, Rebecca. Some things I didn't think about or have time yet to articulate. So thank you for your super chat, and thank you for sharing that. Joanne and Cat Joy, thank you for your amazing support too. Is the homeless guy wearing his shirt confirmed to be true? Well, the news today made a couple of statements about it. One of the things that they were saying was that there were several eyewitnesses. So you're kind of going on the back of several eyewitnesses. I don't know if those eyewitnesses are credible or not. The police do have the name of the homeless person who was apparently wearing that shirt. I think his name's Ross. They've identified him in their database. They know exactly who he is. It's unclear at this point whether they brought him in for questioning. I don't know about you guys, but I feel like they probably need to bring him in for some questioning. If he has several eyewitnesses saying that he was wearing their shirt, then certainly, in my opinion, they need to bring him in for questioning. But you guys can see right here um, just the lay of the land. So there's several homeless people here. Just is what it is. I'm not trying to talk about a demographic, but I noticed this guy walking down there at the bottom too by himself. Do you guys see that guy walking across the screen down there at the bottom? In the black hoodie? I want to know who he is. And then you guys, another thing that I noticed was this there's a work truck with lights flashing. You guys can see that yellow light reflecting off of that bridge. And this guy will pan over in just a second, and I'll pause it to show you exactly what I'm talking about. To the left. Okay. That work truck right there, I want to know what department for the city of Nashville does that truck belong to? I mean, is it the water department? Is it the, sanitation department? What is it, the Metro Nashville Police Department? What is that? What is that work truck? Do they have a dash cam? I want to know. I mean, so to me, those are important pieces of information that I want to know. And I thought that was very unique, that body cam footage. Now, the Daily Mail also releasing some, I think, pretty important information today, saying that the search moves from the river to the dam 40 miles from where he was last seen. Now, I have good friend of mine who's an expert in finding people underwater. His name is Doug Bishop. Many of you guys will remember him finding Kylie Rodney after weeks of nobody being able to find Kylie Rodney. I spoke to him about this. He said most likely, if Riley was in the water, he'd be at that, wherever he fell in the water at. That's most likely where he would be at, not way downstream. But I do think it's good for them to check all places, both places, as far downstream as they possibly could. And they did move that, I guess, 40 miles down the stream and found nothing. There's no sign of him. They've done helicopters, they've done airboats, they've done Cajun navies, and they've had no luck. They have rescue teams searching for him. They've turned that attention to the search in the dam and have had no luck. And they actually have some good footage of them doing this search. You guys can see right here. See if I can watch the full video. Ad for a watch, a G-Shock watch. Hurry up, you little ad. Okay. Yeah, you guys can see it. It's a huge, in my opinion, it's a huge river. It's not a small river at all. And certainly if they have this thought that he's floating way downstream, he would be stopped by the dam. One thing that I remembered, and Amy Heights, our moderator today, texted me and asked me if it was true, and I actually remembered because I've had conversations. Doug Bishop pulled, I think, about 19 cars out of the Cumberland River at the exact spot that Riley went missing. So he actually has experience in the river in that spot. Picture of Riley. Every time I see his mom, my heart just breaks. So I think we just pray for her. So Father, we just bless Michelle right now in the name of Jesus, that you'd give her and their entire family a supernatural peace that surpasses understanding. Give them a strength in this season. And Lord, may they come just to be fully aware of your goodness. And we bless them in Jesus' name. Here's some more footage. Let me just see. We've seen this footage. You guys can see teams searching. I think it's crazy that somebody found his debit card. It's like one of the things that Jennifer Cobbendauer said, well, if they found their debit card, it means they didn't do a grid search. It's a great point, because they would have certainly went through all that stuff that was left there. I think and it's also what's the most gracious reason possibly why there was no dirt or anything on the debit card? Like, how is that even possible if it's been 9 or 10 days of sitting outside in the dirt, and or did they clean it before they took the picture? You get what I'm saying? Like, there's just questions.
Is Anna from there too?
I know she lives here right now. I can't remember if she's from here. But hey, she's right with me to go climb right down. I was like, my type of gal. No hesitation.
I didn't know about you doing all that very well.
So I would hate that. You pause it, brings these other things up. So I'm just watching what she does. She takes a stick and she pushes off a bag.
Got a stick.
So it's under
My type of
something.
gal. Well, I know that once I saw up above, they would have like a couple spots, like old fire pits or some old spots they'd burn stuff to see around like that.
I don't think they do right here, or at least where that guy's tent is, because he's talking about how cold. What? You found his credit card? We found his credit card. We gotta hang up. We gotta hang up the phone.
Oh, I wish she wouldn't have hung up the phone. I wish she would have stayed on the phone so we could have been able to see more of what was happening there. Okay. See what else footage we have. I've already gone through that. Metro Nashville Police scouring the river. And again, guys, we know this from just previous cases that we've studied. Uh, s- seeing um, seeing people search the river waterways are not enough. So many cases where they've brought in supposedly the best people to search and they found nothing. Sorry, I was muted the whole time. He's walking a little heavy-footed, I would say that. Like, that's one thing that, I think is interesting, that really hasn't been mentioned too much. Kat Joy sends this great question. She said, "Is it true or not the homelessness at that camp was a whole different crew the next night? Could they have passed him off to another group? I know it's morbid." I mean, that's I would say the homeless population is extremely transient. I don't think they have just one particular spot that they meet in because the city's pretty much on top of making sure that they're not congesting waterways and riverways and things like that. So it could have totally been a whole nother crew that could have totally been passed around. I know it is bad to think that way, but at this point, we're a think tank kind of just putting together all of our thoughts. And I guess, Cat Joy, thank you. Simply Eth, thank you. You said there's police activity out there now. Well, part of the reason why I was actually at one point thinking about going in that area to film footage, there's every YouTuber in all of America standing in downtown Nashville right now. And so I'm trying to avoid it. So I don't want to get caught up in that. So that could just be going after that. But I'll definitely take a look and see what's going on. Jennifer Swain, thank you so much for your tremendous support. I want to welcome to the program, very close, good friend of this show, Kim. It's good to see you. Thank you so much for your tremendous support. I want to welcome to the program, very close, good friend of this. We actually are getting an echo, so I think you got to listen to audio through StreamYard instead of YouTube.
There we go.
Are you there? We actually are getting an echo, so I think you got to listen to audio through StreamYard instead of YouTube.
There we go. I think I'm good now.
Can you hear me?
Oh. Yeah. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
The lag.
There we go. I think I'm good now.
Can you hear me? Okay, Kim's working to get that figured out, but it's amazing to have her as a guest on the show. And somebody who was a guest a lot on the show over the years, and so it's really glad to have her. She's getting the audio fixed. Let me just text her a quick text. This was a group of people that I saw searching waterways actually too on a boat. I'll put their link to their YouTube channel. Divers Focus Search and Canine and Sonar. That way you guys can follow their page, and anybody that's dedicating their resources and things like this, you definitely need to go follow. Can you hear me, Kim?
I think so. Is it good now?
Yeah, perfect now.
Whew. Okay, so it's been a while.
I know it's been a long time. So I know I saw your Facebook post today, and I was hoping that you would be on the show and things like that, so we could have some conversations about that. Because I know when you think about Riley, you're probably thinking about your own kids, right? You're probably putting yourself in a position as a mom, like what this could be anybody, and then certainly it's heartbreaking to think that he just disappeared. So I'd love to know your theories and thoughts of what potentially happened.
100%. I mean, since it happened, that, you know me well enough to know that's my biggest fear. I mean, I have Life 360 with my boys. They're 26 and 22 now. So my youngest is exactly the same age as Riley. When they go on trips, I watch Life 360 like it's a movie. It just, I can't help it. I worry about them, especially when they're away from home. And I'm always on them. Keep your phone charged, make sure you don't turn off your location services, all of those things. So this was absolutely kind of, I hadn't really been following true crime for a while, and it drew me right back in because it hits home so much.
Yeah. Yeah, this is certainly one of those cases that it's surprising to me because we've sort of done the demographics of what cases take off across the country, and this doesn't fit the demographics. And it also, at least for me, uh, at the surface, appeared to be a case that's pretty cut and dry. It's like, oh, he had too much to drink and just walked the wrong way and landed in the river. Well, the problem with that theory is that there's actually no evidence. There's no body.
Right.
It's just peculiar, right?
Mhm,
So
mhm.
when one thing that we tend to do is just think through different hypotheses. What are some of those hypotheses that you've thought through that are potential in this case?
So, like you, when it first happened, I mean, the thing I told Keith was, oh, he was drunk, stumbling, fell in the water. As time has gone by, there's other thoughts. I'm very curious about the fact that both the watch and the phone went off at the exact same time. Highly, in my opinion, and the research I've done, unlikely that they would both go off the same time, even if he fell into the water. That just doesn't seem likely the more I look at it. And then, of course, the thing I did post in Facebook about Life 360. Life 360 claims that their crash detection can detect a significant fall or impact. And so the fact that it didn't register anything, yeah, that's bizarre to me. But, based on my Facebook post, I've had a lot of people say that doesn't always work. It doesn't even always work with crash detection. But yeah, they claim, I mean, I posted from their website, they claim that they can that their crash detection can detect a fall or significant impact. So I thought that was strange. So there's a lot of strange things I think about this. The fact that he, I mean, yes, things happen to males, but the fact that he is a rather, tall male, it's not the typical category that you worry about, for the most part, walking by themselves at 9:52 at night, maybe later.
Yeah.
But 9:52 is kind of early. It blew my mind in that video of the guy that walked around that same night that it wasn't even really dark down there. I
Yeah.
mean, in terms of light, there was a lot of light down in that area where he last was. It
Yeah.
wasn't like a really dark, secluded area like I had thought. So that kind of surprised me as
It was
well.
extremely bright. Like even that video that I was showing
Mhm.
just prior to what we're watching right now, which was people out there doing a sonar, which I kind of have my eyes a little bit fixated on that sonar screen because there's things that we might pick up that just because they're looking at the bank or something like that could have missed. But yeah, that footage I was showing, which I think was around approximately 1:32 a.m., it's
Mhm.
extremely bright down there. And I think because they know that there's so much potential of crimes down there that they want it to be as bright as possible. I mean, you had an officer down there investigating a broken window at that time. And so, in order to prevent that, the greatest extinguisher of that is light. Light expels darkness. And so, they do have a lot of light going on. And it's just you're right too about it being early. 9:50, 9:45 is early. People are, just finishing up dinner sometimes in Nashville around that time on the weekends.
Yeah, it's not really late. It's not where you would generally think that it would be a dangerous time. And the other thing today that when you were showing that video of the guy walking around town that I mentioned to Keith as well, is a lot of people have mentioned, that Riley had new black cowboy boots. And so, earlier I was making a lot of assumptions. I hate to admit that, but I was making a lot of assumptions about his behavior, when he was walking toward downtown, about the amount that he either had to drink or possibly being drugged. But what I told Keith was, wow, I didn't know it was raining. I couldn't tell that from the other, videos that had been shown. And I'm like, wait, new cowboy boots, rain, slick ground. That's one good reason why he may have been walking to an extent the way he was walking, but then appeared fine when he was walking in the grass by the cop, because it's hard to walk in rain on cement, on pavement with new cowboy boots on. So,
Well, new cowboy boots take a long time to fit.
mhm. And that's one of the things, that they were saying is he had on new black cowboy boots. And I'm thinking, wow, okay, I didn't know it was raining. that put a whole new spin on the way he was walking on the pavement, on the asphalt down to the waterfront to me. And I'm like, well, maybe he wasn't as intoxicated as I thought previously. Again, I'm, embarrassed to admit that a little bit, but maybe he wasn't as intoxicated. It's hard to walk in the rain on asphalt with cowboy boots.
Yeah. And another thing too that I found really interesting, just as I've asked people in the chat and different ideas of what they thought was going on. We have over 1,000 votes in the poll right now. 70% of people think there was foul play. 70% of people. And so for me, that's a little bit of a strange clue piece too, because usually there's some consensus around what is the most prevailing theory. For example, in the prior case that we've covered a lot before this one would have been the case of Bryan Kohberger. And it's like 90% of people think he was guilty. And so it's like, okay, most people are kind of actually on the correct side of this story. Well, it's causing me to be like, well, how come 70% of people think that there was foul play? And what is your gut telling you?
My gut is telling me that there was some degree of foul play. I still think there's the possibility, that he could have stumbled, he could have gone to use the restroom, and that's a long walk if you are intoxicated to not find a restroom, so I think he could have possibly looked for a place, maybe lost his balance. So I think there is that possibility, but my gut does tell me that something unusual happened. There was even a part of me today. I know Keith's probably tired of me running theories by him all day, but there was even a part of me today that saw that TikTok video and was like, well, did he get hit by a car on that blind curve? Could that have happened and somebody panicked? Those people that look to be carrying someone, could they have, that's just an option that ran through my head. But one of the things I saw Ken mentioning in chat that I think is one of the most interesting things I've heard today is somebody on Twitter put forth the possibility that he had searched for tempo. And, Keith and I both sometimes select the wrong thing in ways, where it's a very similar thing. And that he had put in tempo and ended up heading toward your tempo, which is over there by 2nd and 3rd at the end of Gay Street, which would have explained why he was walking in that direction. Because one of the things that really confused me is he seemed to be walking with purpose. And whether or not that was because he was intoxicated or not, he didn't ask the cop for directions. He didn't ask the couple that he talked to for directions. And I get maybe if you're with a group of people not asking for directions, but a single person who was lost, who was like, hey, it only took us 3 minutes to get there. Now I'm 30 minutes to an hour, on the way back. You would think that someone who was lost would ask for directions. He seemed to be walking with purpose. And so that made a lot of sense to me, is that maybe he did select the wrong tempo, because that's right there at the end of Gay, right? Right by where he was, not much further than he was in the last ping.
What you see on the screen is crimemapping.com, and it just actually collects all of the aggregate data of any of the crimes that were reported to police officers. And I put a custom time frame in here from March 8th to March 9th. And this one right here, you can see is that vehicle break-in that happened at 9 p.m. Vehicle break-in theft. There really wasn't a lot of crime this particular night. If you're looking at the map, we have here, which would have been at 8 a.m., drug and alcohol violation. And so I'm like, okay, I wonder what that is. And then how long, and there's the incident report. So I don't know if there's a way to like look up the Nashville police incident report or whatever. But I wonder, was that something that was happening in those wee hours? Another vehicle theft that was happening at 6 a.m. on the morning of March 9th. Vandalism, 3 a.m. All in this vicinity. Here's an assault that happened at 2 a.m. And that's really the extent of the crimes that took place. Here's an assault that happened at 5 p.m. on March 8th. So that would have been prior to him getting kicked out of that Luke Bryan bar. But here's the vicinity that he was in. And these are all the reported crimes for that day. And I don't know if it's here nor there, if it's helpful or not helpful, but it's at least some more information that we can put in our minds. And as things continue to pop up, we have that piece of data that we can rely on.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just so perplexing to me. Again, the time of day, that's what or the time of evening, that's kind of what makes me think, okay, maybe he did just fall, lost his balance, those kind of things. But then I don't know, there's just that other part of me that says that doesn't make sense. He appeared fairly coherent when talking with the police officer, which is right before, the last ping. And then just, I mean, seconds, minutes later, the phone goes off, and his parents did say it was shut off. The phone goes off, the watch goes off. How? Why?
Yeah, I know that is like just again perplexing to think about it from that perspective. How's the phone go off? How's the watch go off at the exact same time? And then the thing that you're mentioning about the crash detection or the big fall, even in, by the way, even an Apple Watch detects big falls. I know this because my pastor at church was doing a really great illustration during one of his sermons, and he jumped off of a ladder and his watch, and it was like not even on the top rung, but it just was jumping off to get off, and
Mhm.
his watch popped up and was like, "Did you fall from the ladder?"
Oh,
So,
wow.
it's like even that short of a fall, actually can show up. So I was like, this guy was actually wearing an Apple Watch, and so if he fell, I think those Apple Watches can actually detect that. I mean, I don't if he has like a really old model or something like
Right.
that, maybe it doesn't. But considering he had an Apple, I don't know if you knew this, an Apple iPhone 15 Pro Max.
Right.
So not only did he have the latest iPhone, but he has literally the biggest and most expensive version of it. I would tend to think he probably had one of the newer Apple Watches as well.
I would think so too. At least one of the, I mean, because it's been several versions that have had, the health readings, the health monitor on there. So I would think so. That's what's just so strange to me. I mean, I all the time forget to take off, my Apple Watch when I'm even getting a bath, and it's submerged the whole time. Obviously, there's no, impact, but it works, fine.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I just don't think they would both go off at the same time falling into the water unless, heaven forbid something happened and it came off his body. I don't know, but it just doesn't make sense to me. That's what tends to lean me toward something of some sort not being 100% accident. I guess that's just my gut.
Yep. Yep.
What do you think?
Well, I think it's peculiar. I think it's an interesting situation, and I really don't know. I have
Mhm.
no clue. I initially was just thinking the whole entire thing was just an accident, and then again, I kind of have this theory that God highlights cases and bring cases out to the surface that actually need to be brought out for different reasons. Like we saw with the Gabby Petito case, I felt like publicly that was putting a spotlight on domestic violence situations, and actually had a lot of people, step into healing in their life. And
Mhm.
so the fact, just the way that I process things, I'm like, the fact that I feel like God's bringing this case to the light is actually creating a scenario where there's something in it that is important. That's how I process information. And so initially I thought it was just an accident and it would blow over. And here we are 10, 11, 12 days, 13 days in. And I guess actually, yeah, 13 days in. And there's more and more and more people interested. National media's, descended upon Nashville. And it makes me think that there could be something that happened because they've searched now 40 miles of the river,
Right.
found nothing.
Yeah, I agree. And you're talking about things that could, come out of this, good that can come out of this. I think a lot of conversations are being had. I know they've been had in my house with my boys about, leaving friends behind. You don't leave your friends behind. You're always stay in pairs, and, make sure somebody knows your plan, those kind of things. And just always making sure that you're thinking, at that age it's hard to kind of think. We've had this talk before. It's kind of hard to think about consequences and think beyond the current moment.
Yeah.
But just realizing, a friend, if they didn't want to leave, they could have, and I'm not blaming the frat boys at all. Believe me, I know 22-year-olds, I know this isn't going on in their mind, but maybe this is something that it will change in the
Yeah.
mind of some, is because I know for the most part, a 22-year-old's going to go, oh, I'm fine, I got it, but hopefully this will bring to light that, hey, walk your friend to the hotel and Uber back or something like that, and maybe it'll change that a little bit, or even the way bars deal with who they feel are intoxicated individuals. I could see something coming out of this where there becomes a new law where you don't just kick somebody out. You're actually responsible for, to some extent, yes, adults should be responsible for themselves. But if you decide someone is incapacitated enough to leave, maybe we decide in the future there's an additional step that's taken, not blaming the bar, but it's just things to think about that could come out of this.
Oh, 100%. 100% agree with you. And one of the things that I think um, is not taken into account, especially as people start to point fingers at some of his fraternity brothers, is they also likely were pretty
Mm-hmm.
intoxicated.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so it's like, we're almost acting like some of the decisions they were making was from a place of complete sobriety when that likely wasn't the situation. And
Well, yeah. I mean, especially, again, they're guys and, not everybody is paranoid like me. Not everybody has, told their 22 and 26-year-old sons, all these things because you just don't think about that. You want to believe the world is a kind place. And even on the occasions that are not, of course, these guys don't think it's going to happen to them. Nobody does at 22. And, boys, especially men, young men, think, I'm fine. So he probably thought he was going to be fine. They probably thought he was going to be fine. So it's not a blame thing. I think it just might point out something that, needs to be part of a bigger conversation.
I agree totally. Now, I haven't seen this clip from Banfield, but I thought maybe we could watch it because she did an exclusive interview with his mom that aired. I don't know if you've seen this clip.
I don't think I have seen this one.
Let's see what they had to say.
Okay.
What do you make of the fact that several reputable people, Sabrina Martin, who we played at the beginning of the show, who works with the homeless and made note of that very distinctive shirt. She didn't even know about the story about Riley. She'd never heard there was a missing student. She just remembers serving that man water and realizing the shirt underneath his dirty hoodie was very clean and had a big black pocket on it. She's the first account of the shirt. The second account being Chris Salisbury, who said that other homeless people saw it. What do you make of the fact that if that homeless person, Ross, was telling the truth, he was picking up the shirt over the railing blocks and blocks south in an area where Riley never walked? We know because we know from the video where he walked, and he was nowhere near Broadway and Gay Street. What do you make of that whole notion that there might be a man out there who did have Riley's shirt, and where do you think he got it?
That's one thing, Kim, that we didn't talk about.
Yeah, I have feelings about that.
Yeah, I'd love to hear them.
I think there's a possibility that, especially if there were foul play involved, that somehow that shirt did make it. Now, whether Ross was involved, I don't know that. But, that fort, I had shown Keith pictures of that fort a couple of days ago before I even knew that that's where Ross said he found the shirt. That fort just stuck out to me. And when I started looking at the pictures that were in Google Maps of the fort and just some of the condition on the backside of the fort and just, things that were there, it just, I don't know, it just struck me as not a great place, especially it doesn't look good. And so I had just been really paying attention to that fort. But I think the possibility, if something happened, foul play, that the shirt could have made it, whether firsthand or secondhand down there. It's not as far as Ashley said. When I looked at it, it's about 3 blocks down, first turns into Gay right there.
Yeah.
So it's not that far. It's, the fort is right at the end of Broadway where Broadway joins First and then First turns into Gay. So when I looked at it, I was like, I could see how it could make it back there. I think it's worth a conversation with Ross to say, let us see the shirt. If there was vomit on it and it hasn't been washed, it could possibly be tested.
I agree 100%. By the way, guys, there's other YouTube channels and things like that, I think, trying to come out and say he's been found. Just because there's lights downtown, police lights downtown, doesn't mean that he's been found. I'm monitoring everything in real time, and if there's any information like that that comes forward, I'll point it out. I'm here to tell you he has not been found at this point, and trust me, I'm paying attention to every single second, the latest information, and if that happens, we'll be sure to alert it. What we're not going to do, like I think probably some other people are doing, are streaming other people's YouTube channels. And really, this is what we see, and we've seen this before in other cases, Kim, is that people kind of use hyperbole at times, and
Right.
And it's actually not rooted in fact. So,
Right.
Okay, back to the Ashley Banfield thing. But yes, the shirt thing is very interesting.
we knew that, we'd have a lot more answers for what we're looking for right now. Like I said, when he goes off video at that street sign saying the height there by the bridge going in under James Robertson, that's the last we've ever seen him on video. Still had the shirt on at
Did the
that point in
police
time.
did they update you? I know you've spoken with them every day since Sunday. Have they updated you with satisfying information or helpful information? And are they telling you a lot of things they haven't told us?
Hey, Tyler,
We feel like that we've gotten
Yes.
did you see the other video today of Chris Dingman saying that now they have seen another video, another camera footage of that he was actually down there at the next bridge?
Yes, I did see that. I wish we could watch the footage.
I know. I know. Yeah, it was interesting. He said that it answered a lot of questions, which I thought was intriguing. And then he gave a brief overview of the fact that it was the camera that was at the top of the stairs off the elevator that goes up to the top of the bridge. And he said, yeah, it answered a lot of questions. It gave us a lot of answers. He stood right here at this sign behind me for 6 to 7 seconds playing with his phone. So we know he had his phone at that point because he said playing with his phone. And then it was just a couple of minutes later when the phone shut off. So I just thought that was interesting. And we haven't seen that video yet. That was just Chris Dingman. Dingman, that's his last name, right?
Do you think, yeah, that is his last name. Do you think they'll release the footage?
I don't know. I mean, it depends, I guess. If they're following up on a lead, if it really did truly answer questions, and I don't want to, I don't want to like jump the shark here, but I'm really interested in the fact that his parents really believe he's alive. Like, I would be thinking worst case scenario. Me personally, I would be the other way. I would be thinking that he wasn't alive. If I was the parent, I would go to the darkest place probably. And his parents seem very convinced he's alive. I feel like there has to be a reason for that. They don't seem like the kind of people that would just live in denial. So I feel like there has to be something they know that we don't know that gives some glimmer of hope.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, and I think sort of that sentiment's echoed in this conversation with Ashley, where they're like, we're committed to doing whatever it takes to get to the bottom of this. They, even the stepdad said today in a later interview, he actually had tears in his eyes, but he said, we still have a little hope.
Right. Yeah.
Teresa says, I think he could have been abducted. That would explain the phone and watch shut off. I mean, that has to be in the realm of what's possible, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's the weird, analysis of the police body cam. There's people that you can definitely hear somebody in the background say something about car parked. I don't know if you've heard that whole, conversation. There's been people that have brought up the audio on that police cam video. And when the police officer, after Riley passes him, you can hear something being said clearly. It sounds like, is that the car parked or is the car parked? And then there's a car door that closes. Those things are definitive. Whether that has anything to do with Riley, I don't know. Nobody knows at this point other than possibly the parents and the policeman. But you do hear that. Right. The police officer does say, he tells where where the truck that got broken into was parked. So I think there's a possibility what we heard was his radio saying, where is the truck parked, and him, because he answers that right after. But those are some things that it definitely didn't seem far-fetched when I first heard it, that could be a possibility.
This is the breaking news right now that the emergency medical is at the scene where Riley went missing. Reports are that someone has fallen and is waiting to be rescued. That feels more like the story, right? Somebody they're trying to rescue fell, and there's a stretcher there for them to pick him up. And of course, other YouTube channels are running with it like, oh my gosh, they found him. I hate that they're doing it like that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it kind of, it doesn't surprise me that would happen. There's a lot of people out there searching that are trying to be helpful, and that's a steep area.
It's steep. It's not safe. There's reasons that there's fence and guardrails up along the way. I'm thinking, like, for example, I grew up in Missouri, and along the Mississippi River, at points they just have it open. You just go out there and skip rocks and things like that. It's not because it's a big river that they have those guardrails up. It's because it's such a steep fall. But you can see emergency medical on the scene. And this person, Burton Stack, says a large emergency response is in the area where Riley went missing. It's reportedly due to a homeless person falling down the embankment. Folks, I don't know how to tell you guys enough. Falling into the Cumberland happens a lot. It's treacherous. It's not Riley.
Well, I mean, that does just point out though that it does happen a lot. It's not unheard of. And it's it's about, I mean, close to the same time period. It's 9 o'clock. So yeah.
Yeah, there's that one with the stretcher. Yeah, it is close to it's 8 o'clock here.
Oh, that's right. Sorry.
Yeah. So you can just see on there what's going on. Cat Joy, thank you so much for those amazing super stickers. You are awesome, helping keep our train rocking and rolling. We're actually in caboose mode now. Pamela says, "Thank you, Tyler, for your prayers. The family and that Riley will be found." I think that's the most important contribution that any of us can make. Praying for the family and kind of doing the best we can to be there for them and support in that way. I just believe prayer through Jesus is the solution for everything always, and that includes in this situation. Kim, I'm thinking about too, just when Wes came to visit Nashville, I was hanging out with him, and it's just, I know you're thinking like your son was in Nashville not that long ago. I was hanging out with him.
Yeah.
And it's just easy to put yourself into these, in your feet into the shoes of these people.
Absolutely. And, I mean, Wes has been honest about his struggles. I've been honest about his struggles. And I, thank God every day that he quit drinking because, all those times when he went to like Las Vegas or, Nashville or all these places, I just hold my breath, and, not that it's horrible, but it creates scary situations, in my opinion.
For sure. Without a doubt. And this mom, every time I see her, my heart breaks into like 100 pieces.
Absolutely.
It tells you too, like how incredible of a young man Riley is and how amazing of a mom that she is. Just the deepness of their relationship,
I catch myself thinking, and again, it's one of those things that you think sometimes you're like, oh, that's not necessarily nice of me, but it's like, this is how a mom acts when their child goes missing. We've seen cases before where it turns out, that it wasn't necessarily always on the up and up. And you're always like, what, how is that mom being so calm? And you later learn why, right? Well, this is the epitome, in my opinion, of how a mom acts when their child is missing. She's just broken, and it's so sad.
Yeah, I know it's hard. I mean, it's absolutely heartbreaking.
And we're getting more details. We also met with the mayor after our press conference on Monday. I think it was Monday. Yeah. So Tuesday, we met with the mayor and his team. So yes, we're getting more information. Yes, new things are coming in. I know that they have talked to the Sabrina Martin. I don't know what become of that yet, but I do know that they were talking to her because they told us that they were getting.
Good. Thank God. Because as of last night, when we had Sabrina Martin on the show, she said they had not reached out to her. And I was just devastated to hear that, 9-10 days had passed since Sabrina had made her report. Michelle, can I just ask you this? We're at day 12. And today I know there was searching going on at the dam and that they found nothing. As a mom, I would have been relieved by that. I wondered about you at the moment when they made the report that they found nothing at the dam today.
It's just all hard. It's all very hard. I'm thankful. I don't know how to feel, honestly. It's hard. It's all heartbreaking. We just want to find our son. And I'm sorry.
I understand. We want to help you find your son, and I've been very frustrated.
I know.
Go ahead, Michelle.
We appreciate the help. We do. Thank you for getting the word out about our boy. And
We have asked the Nashville Police to join us every single night of this story to get the word out. Because we know that viewers are responding. We know that TikTokers are responding. We know that social media and bloggers have actually helped to advance evidence in this case. And they have refused every single night that we've requested that they be on the air to help update this case and keep it in the public eye. So I'll tell you what, you have our commitment that we are going to continue to try to solve this exhaustingly sad mystery. But I can tell you from the bottom of our hearts, we feel for you. Thank you for being on.
I've never seen Ashley Banfield have emotion.
No, not like that. I mean, yeah, not like that. It's tough. It's really, really, really tough. What do you think about what she's saying about her frustration with the police? I mean, I know we've talked before. We are always, 99.9% in support of the police, but it does seem they're dragging a little bit.
It's an interesting situation because the actual on the ground soldiers of the Nashville Police Department are amazing people, and I've known many of them and spent time with many of them, and they're just the best of the best. There is an understaffing situation in the city of Nashville with the police department, and I investigated it personally because I had a situation with a friend of mine who had a U-Haul that was stolen. You remember all of that, and I was
Right.
just trying to get down to the bottom of why was there no response to that? How come? What's going on in the city? And as I got deeper into the mystery, there's a systematic problem that it there's issues with people at the top of the governmental structure, including
Mhm.
the mayor's office, including um, the city attorney's office. There's issues that forces them not to want uh, at that level to be cooperative in certain cases. And you've seen that too with the Nashville school shooting that took place. There was a Nashville school shooting. Many of you guys would remember that. That happened at a Christian school, and there was a manifesto from the shooter, and they refused to release the manifesto because they didn't want people to actually know what was going on because it went against the agenda that certain politicians are trying to perpetuate. And so there is something stinky at the highest levels at some places in the Nashville governmental offices. And I hate to say that because I love all of them, and I want to be able to pray for them and things like that. And I do pray for them. But when people go after power instead of what's right, it causes issues like what you're seeing, which is a public wanting to hear from an official capacity what resources they're exhausting to get to the bottom of what's going on. And you have nationally acclaimed news networks saying, can you at least give us a statement? Can you come on for 5 minutes? And they're refusing. And you can't help as the public but fill in the blanks and scratch your head and say, well, if you don't have 5 minutes to come and talk about what's going on, then that probably shows us that you might not actually be allocating resources to this in the way that the public might be demanding. And I find that to be heartbreaking and problematic. And you see it reflective in Ashley Banfield. The only time we've watched thousands of Ashley Banfield clips at this point, I've
Mhm.
never seen her. I mean, she's like stone cold Steve Austin.
Right.
She's like literally like sometimes we wonder if she's human. And to see her break like that, it to me signifies that there's something that needs to be corrected.
Yeah, I think that's a very, very good description of it. I think you just went into mute.
Oh, I'm still here.
Okay, you muted for a second, or at least it muted on my end. But yeah, I think that's a great explanation you gave of it, and that's kind of how I was feeling. I mean, obviously not with that detail, but it is frustrating because it seems there's other YouTubers down there, and again, anyone in the chat that doesn't know me, I'm usually diehard support of the police all the way. So I'm not necessarily not being supportive. I'm just curious more, or I've been curious why there didn't seem to be more in the way of searching, et cetera, going on until recently. I'm glad to see EquiSearch is going to be there tomorrow. I think that's going to be, helpful, possibly the additional resources they're getting.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that that's really good. There's other, support teams that have came, and one of the things that I realized about what happens is in Nashville is that they have a human capital problem, meaning that they have a lot more job openings that haven't been fulfilled, and so they can only dedicate so much energy to certain things before they have to move on to others, or else the whole city would just kind of fall to the wayside. And so that's what ends up happening. There's only so many detectives, and it's not because they don't want more. It's because there's not enough applying, and that's the problem.
God, it's scary, isn't it?
It is, and then you should ask the question why. How come they're not wanting to apply? Is it the pay? It's not the pay. They pay pretty generously, in my opinion, compared to surrounding neighborhoods, cities, and even metropolitan areas. They pay really well, and in my opinion, it's probably a little bit of a safer city compared to others. And
Yeah.
so it's not like you're hearing about crazy gang violence or things like that. The biggest issue in the city of Nashville happen right there on Broadway with tourists that come in, and there's ways to manage that. So uh, there's something that has to do with the way that they handle their policies and procedures. And I'll tell you one of them that somebody told me when I was asking these questions, how come there's not enough officers? How come some officers are not wanting to apply? And I think they've since amended this rule. I'm not 100% sure on it, but one of the officers said one of the problems is in order to have your own Nashville Metro Police patrol vehicle, so in order to have a vehicle to do your own work in, you have to live in the city limits of Nashville. And
Oh, wow.
it, like, so for example, you can't live in one of the suburbs. Well, obviously the suburbs are a lot more affordable to live in, first off.
Hmm.
And so even if they make 100 grand or something like that, it can be difficult if you have a family to have an affordable place to live. And then there's if you're have a family, having to send your kids to an inner city school versus a really polished school in a suburb somewhere isn't always the best choice for some families. And so it, that's one of the reasons why people have been apprehensive about being apart, because it's like, well, I can't even have a patrol vehicle unless I live inside of Nashville.
Oh, wow. That's a really important conversation.
Yeah, to me. And then another thing was like one of them told me they just like kind of were on a call one day. Like this happened in the city of Nashville, and I think it got reversed. But
Uh-huh.
a police officer responded to a call, like I think at like a car dealership or something like that, and they were given an ink pen from the car dealer. Like I think maybe he needed an ink pen to fill out his report or something like that.
Uh-huh.
Well, that police officer actually got fired for it, kind of like they were labeling it almost like accepting a bribe.
Oh,
Like
wow.
hey, you can't be taking ink pens from things where crimes are happening. And so they're like, an ink pen? Really? I mean, these people feel blessed that we came to the rescue. They just wanted to give us an ink pen. We needed it. And then they got fired. I think that person ended up getting their job back. But that's the kind of stuff that happens where it's like there's major problems. And so
Yeah,
you asked a really important question that maybe all the folks in the chat may not want to know about, but it's certainly, I think, is a part of the grander discussion of what happens. And now the eyes of the world are on Nashville, Tennessee, not just because of this case, but because of a couple of other cases, including the school shooting that took place. And people are waiting to see how they're responding. This is an opportunity for them to really rise up and correct some things that have been wrong.
absolutely.
And they're not doing it.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's like I said, a very important conversation. I know you need to read the super chats, but I have another question for you in just a second.
Oh yeah. Let me see what the super chats are that are coming in. Keith Brooks said, is that Alpha Omega? The
On your
beginning and the end?
On your hat?
I don't know what it says.
Oh.
I was a little curious about it today. I'm like, I have no idea what my hat says, and I don't know if I should be wearing it because I don't know what it says.
Oh.
Somebody sent it to me in the mail, and I just put it on my hat. That's hilarious. But congratulations for being with us for 28 months. Kat Joy, thank you so much for your tremendous support. Keith, thank you for that super sticker. Renee, you as well. Amy Heights as well. And thank you, Kat Joy, for gifting those Feller Fam memberships. Kristen76 says, thank you for your coverage, Tyler. So good to see you on the panel with Brittany the other night. Kim, you have been so missed. So it's good to see you praying Psalm 91 over here all evening. Thank you so much, Kristen76. And I'll echo those sentiments. Kim, it's great to have you tonight.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people probably wonder where we've been. We've had a rough year. My dad passed away and we moved my mom in, and there's just been, a million things with our house. And anyway, but we're glad to be here tonight. Glad to see
We're
everybody.
glad you're here tonight. And, obviously we've still kept in touch and remain close and everything. So it just, seasons are seasons sometimes.
Right.
So you said you had another question?
Yes. So are you surprised that it's taking so long for Apple to get the information to them they confirmed today they don't yet have the watch information back from Apple? That blows my mind.
It is interesting, right? It's like, what causes the urgencies in those situations? That's a
It
very interesting question.
It's just so strange. I did learn today that there is an option if anybody is interested in Apple in your iCloud to designate an emergency contact that can get your information if something happens to you without having to go through a court order. So, people might want to look into that, but it just blows my mind that Apple, one of the biggest companies, can't turn the information around sooner.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it could be immediate, right? Because it's a click of a button for them.
Right. It blows my mind. It feels like that would be so helpful. And, at first I thought they just weren't telling us, right? None of our business. Some of the things, we've talked about that before. We don't need to know everything. We want to know everything, but we don't need to, especially in an active investigation. So I thought maybe they're just not telling us. But they confirmed today they don't have it. And that just threw me for a loop.
And at this point, the law enforcement, that only few statements that we've got from them, they've been adamant that they don't see any signs of foul play at this point, which I think the way that they classify a case also determines the amount of resources that can be allocated towards
Mm,
it.
yeah.
And so that could be part of the conversation that hasn't been said or had either. And you saying that kind of piqued something in me about that. But you would think with Apple and whoever are those decision makers in that company would see a case that's garnering the attention of America right now and want to fix their gaze on how to help as quick as possible, especially when there's some requests from the public.
Well, that brings up another point. We just got done talking about, the police force and now Apple, but there was a lot of people questioning why the cold case division was assigned to this case.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. How many months does it have to be before a cold case? And this isn't even 2 weeks yet.
Well, I wonder if that's part of what we've been seeing. And, what Ashley's been frustrated with is the lack of resources due to, I would imagine, based on what you just said, and this is just me supposing or my supposition, I would imagine that cold cases get less resources than what they would consider an active case.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure. There's probably less manpower, etc. For sure.
Yeah, and so that may be part of it too, if it's the way the case was assigned. But okay, the last question that I have, and this just popped in my mind, and I know we're both sensitive to the topic of not wanting at all to blame the homeless people. So that's not where this question is going. But do you find it interesting that they haven't searched under the bridge? Now I know that is technically people's home, but that is where his card was found. That is where, they were saying today that the dogs were having a hard time picking up a scent, and that's why they really haven't used dogs. But there hasn't been yet an official search under the two bridges.
Mm-hmm. Jennifer Coffindaffer made a statement whenever they found the debit card that I thought was compelling, where she said, it's clear that they didn't do a grid search. And to me, that's shocking. And it goes right along with what you're saying. Why on earth, when there's a missing person and his last ping is that area, would you not block out the nearest 500,000 feet, half a mile radius and do a grid search?
Mm-hmm.
And if they would have done that, they would have located that debit card, unless that debit card showed up at a second time. But with what you're saying, it sounds like they just didn't search that at all.
Right.
And
Yeah.
no, go ahead.
That's what they're saying, and that's what just blows my mind. Keith even said today, "Why isn't there crime tape? Why are people allowed to just wander in and out of the area? If there was any evidence, it's been tainted now."
Well, my guess is after somebody's fallen off the riverbank, homeless person or not, they're gonna, and everybody in the whole wide world coming down there. My guess is that there's going to be some restrictions on who's allowed to be in that area now.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I don't know.
Mentioned that couple that called, the cops never called them back.
Oh yeah, the couple, that called that said that he was on the phone, and heard him speaking on the phone. The same lady, the mother, who later said she saw him throwing up down. And interesting, she said, and I know we saw him, with his shirt on later. So that's where that whole dichotomy comes in for me. But she said that she saw him throwing up at the intersection of Broadway and First. Well, that is down there by the fort. So he was there at one point, even though later he still had his shirt on, but he did pass by that area. So who's to say he didn't circle back? I don't know. There's just so many questions.
And, the report of a homeless person wearing that shirt had vomit on it. I mean, like, that's an interesting connection there. So there certainly are a lot more questions than answers. That is all we have time for today. I so appreciate you coming on. It made my whole day to see you, hear Keith's voice in the background, trying to decipher what language this is on my head. I'm just super excited to hear you guys, and I know you'll be keeping
Well, maybe
me
we'll
up to
show
date.
up tomorrow night.
Yeah, well, tomorrow's Friday, so we do Faith Friday.
Yep.
And I'll actually do my Faith Friday earlier because I have a speaking engagement tomorrow night. But probably on Saturday, I'll be back at it on this case for sure.
Okay. Well, thanks for having me on. Hello and goodbye to everybody. It's great to see everyone. And we'll try not to be strangers so much.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much, Kim. We love you guys, and we'll see you back very soon.
Love y'all too. Bye.
Well, what a amazing surprise to have Kim join us tonight. Stephanie says, did you guys see where the family said he may have been going towards a business named Tempo in error instead of Tempo Hotel? The business was close to where he went missing. Yeah, I did say that, and that kind of explains some things, right? Because if you're just like, I'll just type it on my phone real fast on Google Maps, and just see what comes up when I type Tempo, because I'm in Nashville. I'm in the heart of Nashville, Tennessee, right this second. There's 3 tempos that pop up, and they're 0.1 miles from each other. So, yeah, I can definitely see that. And where he was walking, your tempo is exactly right. And it right there, your tempo. Yep. Very close to where his last ping was. Wow. That is where I bet that's what happened, Stephanie. I bet that is where he was walking. Poor guy. Yep. Wow. Thank you for that insight. Thank you for that super chat. Athena, thank you so much for your super sticker. You are awesome. Kat Joy says, what time for Faith Friday tomorrow? Thank you so much for asking. We're going to do it at 2 p.m. Central Time Zone tomorrow for Faith Friday. I know that's early, and I'm so sorry we're doing it early, but I have a speaking engagement tomorrow night in another city where they're actually having all of the churches in the city come together for one service, and they've asked me to come speak at it. And so I consider it a tremendous privilege to be able to do things like that. And if they're streaming that service, I'll certainly send it to you, but I'm excited to do that. And so we're going to do 2 p.m. Central Time Zone tomorrow for Faith Friday. For people who are new to this channel, on Fridays, we do a Bible lesson, and I pray for people. Every Friday, we've been doing it for about 2 years now. And we've just seen, it's kind of our lowest attended night or service or stream, but we've seen the most fruit from those days. And so I just want to encourage you, if you can be here on Friday at 2 p.m. Central Time Zone tomorrow, to be here. If you're willing to come to our Bible study tomorrow, will you guys put a 1 in the chat, 2 p.m. Central Time Zone, or if maybe you can't be on here live, but you can watch the replay. I'd love to know who is. I know a lot of people are going to be at work, but even if you can watch the replay of that, would you put a 1 in the chat? And Naomi said, I'm going to miss it due to my operation. Naomi, I'm going to be praying for you. I'm going to be praying for you. I'm going to pray for you right now. So, Father, we just right now say that operation goes smoothly. I speak peace right now to every cell in her body in Jesus' name. Amen. And I want to pray. Would you guys mind? You've been with us now for about an hour and a half. We've had 20,000 people watch this video tonight. Would it be okay if I prayed for you real fast? Everybody that's watching, we'll just pray. Um, we'll pray for these families. So, Father, in the name of Jesus, I thank you that your word says you're close to the brokenhearted, and there's so many brokenhearted people, and in particular Riley's family. And Lord, I pray right now that your Holy Spirit just begins to rush over Riley's family, that your supernatural peace, that your strength that comes from this place, God, where we can rise up like a warrior in times like this comes. And Lord, I pray for the Nashville Police Department, that the Christians that are a part of the Nashville Police Department, as they're praying, as I know they do, about these kinds of cases, Lord, I pray right now in the name of Jesus. Thank you, Lord, that they would actually be in a situation where they pray and hear from you about what happened to Riley and where he's at, and that they will be able to find him. And so I pray right now for divine insight and wisdom to Nashville Police Department, and I bless them in Jesus' name. I bless everybody on the chat right now, that they would experience your goodness and mercy and love, and we bless them in Jesus' name. Amen, amen, amen. Hey, you guys are amazing. Thank you so much for being on the stream with us tonight. And I had a great time hanging out with you. Certainly, we had a lot of good information we needed to talk about. And so I so appreciate you being here. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. Central, we'll have our Faith Friday, and then we will be back to covering this case again on Saturday. Unless there's a big break between now and then, I'll certainly get that information out. So thank you guys, and I'll see you back very, very soon.